This is update number 5, I believe, on the Dragon intarsia that I'm doing. You saw this last time, so this is not new. This is just, let you know that it is a Dragon. It's a video on the Dragon again. So today, I know that on one of the previous installments, I said I'd, do some cutting and sanding and all that kind of stuff. Well, this is it. So I'm going to put some scroll saw work right about here. And then I'm going to come back, which is what I am now, and then I want to talk a little bit about sanding. I'm not going to talk too much about scroll saw, other than maybe just a mention of blades, because I have tried a few blades, like everybody else, and maybe I'm just buying into the hype, but I do use Flying Dutchman primarily, although I do have some Olsen blades, and I think that's about it right here. And then there's this. I think that's about it. PS Wood Machines Super Sharks. Anyway, they come in these little plastic things. I don't even know where I got these, but I've tried other kinds. Flying Dutchman, everybody seems to agree they're probably the better ones to use. And there's nothing wrong with them, and they do seem to cut a little better than some of the others. So that's the scroll sawing part of this video. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about sanding, because I'm getting close to that part where I'm really going to have to buckle down and get to sanding. I don't even know where to start with sanding, other than the fact that, in my opinion, just a second. In my opinion, sanding on something like this, or with something like this, some round thing on a flat surface, it's a lot like taking a baseball bat and trying to hit a round ball, because your contact is just very limited. And you have one thing that is straight, which is the edge of this, and then you have a round thing, which you're just going to get a little spot, right? And a lot of intarsia, or most of intarsia, is curves and flow. So there's not a lot of just straight sanding. Maybe at the beginning to get the boards to look better, the wood, before you actually cut it even. So with this in mind, where it's difficult, it's always the big deal. How do I sand? What do I use to sand? Like everybody else, if you walk around this shop, you would see 1,000 things that you could use to sand with. Everything from over there, somewhere there's some steel wool, and there's machinery. I mean, obviously you have this kind of stuff, you know what I mean? You just plug it in and go, but that's really tough to use on intarsia. And you have upright sanders and disc sanders, and it goes on and on. But overall, after you get through with all that stuff, you still have to come back and do a hand sanding. At least I have to now, or I expect I will always have to. And some of the things, I just wanted to show you some of the things that I've used in the past to try to make it either better or faster. Now I'm willing to, I will suffer through a process that isn't easy to do, or it's a little more difficult to do, if in some way it makes the project better. Or if I, on the other hand, if I have something that doesn't necessarily make the project better, but it doesn't make it worse, but it speeds things along, I will consider that. Usually, it's just another thing to try. But here's some of the things that I use, and I'm sure you have them and have used them on projects. So let me just run through a couple, and then we'll get on with something else. We have, obviously we have the sander, the spindle sander, orbital, whatever this thing does. It jumps up and down and spins around and, does everything but fly a kite. So we have this, and that's usually used to be, or is currently, what I use mostly, because I can work it around a little bit, work a piece of wood around and try to get into the spots. And you have different sizes and things. So these are, you need them, and I do use them. And then, of course, you get into sanding sponges. There's a variety of that stuff, different sizes and grades and whatnot. And then you have even square ones like this. They come in different grits, of course. And it's all about getting into the corners and getting into different shapes. And then here's one. It's just homemade. It's just a piece of 2x4 with sandpaper on the outside. It's kind of rough, and it's usually you don't use this much beyond the initial shaping of something. Let me see. And then you go out and I find these kinds of things where you put the sandpaper here, and it's nice and soft. It feels good on the hand. Got little shapes and points and all that kind of stuff. You get that, and then the same kind of thing, only in a slightly different shape. And maybe you can get into smaller places with that. So that's the kind of thing I'm looking for. Something to get into parts. And then there's these little stick things that are of various grits that you can just go out and, I don't know if you can see that or not. You can buy these at a lot of places. And then I found these little blue, they're more of a emery feel to them. They're not real tough on sand, real tough to, aggressive, I guess is the word I'm looking for. But they do have a point there, and they have a sharp point here. I don't know if you can see that profile or not, but it comes to a point and then there's a flat spot. And you can get into little spots. And that's, these are pretty good for, not necessarily, or intarsia, but scroll saw stuff where you get into little holes. Those are good. But surprisingly, what I've found to be the best thing for me to use when I'm trying to shape stuff are these little files. They're metal files and they have different profiles. This one is round, they're all pointed, and this one's round. This one has 4 flat sides on it, they're all pointy. This is, let me see. You have flat ones like that that helps shape things. And anyway, you have those, and I use these a lot, especially the flat ones because they're kind of easy to work with. So that having been said, on the sand, there's these little cloth things like this. And these are really good. I really like these. I just bought a thing. Let me get a picture of it. I will be quick. Trust me. I know I've seen them on a couple of YouTube videos where people have done opening of the box, and this is what you get, and this is what you use on this thing. And it's the Guinevere Flexible Finisher. Steve Good has a pretty good video on this. He bought it, and it's pretty old. His is. But I've looked at this thing, and I've looked at this thing, it's always in the back of the magazine and stuff, and I thought, well, that looks pretty good to me. Or it might be an option. So anyway, I bought one. So at this point, I'm waiting for it to come in, in the mail. Should be here in a few days. So I'm excited as I ever get on things about this. I'm hoping it'll either one, speed things up, or two, make things better. We'll see. But I'll probably do an opening, a box, an unboxing thing. I don't know. It's kind of weird to do those. I don't know why people watch those, but I watch them, and other people apparently watch them. So I'm going to do an unboxing of that thing, and then I'm going to, after I use it on this project, I'll do either part of the last installment of this, or I'll do a separate one with a whatever it's called, or you say how you like a product, a review of a product. I'll try to review it, and for what it's worth. So that's where we're at. Right now I'm going to turn the camera off. I'm going to move it. I'll show you where we're at. Oh, no, I'm not going to do that. One thing that I ran into trouble on this whole project. If you watch the first installment, you'll know I go out and I have a large, let me get one. I have a large pattern made at a local store. Staples is where I go. But anyway, I have a large one made, and then as I get to a certain part, I'll go into the house and I'll have a copy made of this section, and then that way I don't cut up these big ones, because they're kind of expensive. And I can just run in, I can make as many copies as I want theoretically, and then come out, cut them, and go from there. But that's the way I normally do this stuff. But for some reason this time, my copy machine, and this is a warning, always look at your controls on your copy machine, because I had to make, I don't know, hopefully you can see it from there. I had to make this part right here, this one. This is where I really ran into trouble. But I had the same problem I'm about to tell you about on various parts of this. But I'm going to show you this one. So there's that part. So I went in, I made the copy, and I came out and I cut it, and it looks pretty good. Right? But as it turns out, it's too small. So I went in, I made another copy. And that one, I cut it, and that one was too small. So I've come to find out through my own idiocy, there's part of the directions on the coffee machine is actual size. And if you don't hit actual size, it somehow manipulates. And I never got into why one of them's too big and one of them's too small. But if the actual size button isn't pushed, you're pretty well screwed at that point. So I cut these two, and I thought, well, what's going on? And then I found that button, and then everything kind of works out after that. But I have a third one, but it's part of it actually worked, and it's over here in part of the intarsia project. But I just wanted to show that and show just how stupid I can be, and hopefully nobody else makes the same mistake. Because I love this aromatic cedar, but I hate to waste it on mistakes like this. I find it hard to think I'm going to be able to use these for anything else. So anyway, I'm going to come around, I'm going to turn the camera off, I'll focus it on the project, I'll show you where we're at. Okay? Thanks. Okay. All right, that's what here's the project as it sits today. Right there, like something like that. As you can see, most of it is cut out now. The head section is cut out and glued. This section here is all cut out but not glued. As you can see, it moves. Now the wing section, which, everything's cut out. I'm going to quit saying that. But the wing section here needs to be shaped, glued, and then I'm going to put like a 1/4 inch riser on the back. to bring it up. And the same thing is true of the tail. I'm going to put some kind of elevation on the tail, bring it up a little bit. And then I don't know what I'm going to do with this. It needs to come up somehow, like, so it shows some depth to it. But anyway, that'll have to be worked out. All I have, this is the way I usually cut things when I can. As you can see, I cut this whole part out as one piece. I'm not sure if that's a good idea or not, but that's the way I do it. And that's what I did here. And then of course there's, smaller pieces. And I do want to mention this. I'll never, ever will I ever use Purple Heart as part of an intarsia again. I think it's a very pretty wood, but it's a son of a gun to cut. Now here's a Purple Heart, right? And if you see that black on there, that's all burn. I mean, it takes, I don't know, 3 or 4 blades to do it right, and it takes me 1 or 2 to do it wrong. Now this burn is unacceptable if it were on the outside, but I'm going to pretend like it's okay because it's going to be covered, because it's the middle section of the dragon. And I don't think I'm going to have, I think it'll be okay. I don't think I'm going to have a problem with that, because this is like the outside wood, and that will tend to cover that up. It's just a matter of shaping. But again, this is such hard wood, and I'm sure there's other hard woods, but I like Purple Heart, so I keep trying to use it. And this is Purple Heart, and it was, a pain too. You can see where the burn is here and here. But this really was bad because I was trying to force it. And you should never try to force them. I'll go on record as saying that, but I do. So that's where I'm at now. I'm gonna, while I'm waiting for the new sanding machine, that Guinevere thing, to show up in the next couple of days, all I got to do is go through and cut all this stuff apart, and then start. Hopefully, it fits better than it does right now, but we'll see. So, once I get all this stuff cut apart, I'll start the sanding, and then I'll try to put out another video. Maybe I'll add sanding to the next video. So. Okay, so there you have it. That's where I'm at currently. I don't know how much longer it's going to take. I don't get out here too much, only because it's hot, and I don't know. I don't like cutting out here in the heat. So I don't. As you can see, I don't know. You talk about sanders. Can you see this one right here? I can't see the screen, but there's one here, and then there's a couple over there. I don't know if you can see them in the thing, but I like those sanders too, for various rough cutting of parts. So, I think that's it. I'm going to say, see you later. And thanks for stopping by. And talk to you later.